Let's get started and let's talk about the effective use of AI in the CS classroom. And so what are our goals here? What are we trying to accomplish today? We're going to explore how you can use AI in the CS class. And then I'm interested in hearing your experiences as well. And so please share some of those in the chat. I'm going to enroll you in a workshop section, so it's going to be interactive. We're going to try some things together. And kind of from an agenda standpoint, how we're going to break out the time after a quick intro, I'm going to talk about the AI that exists in the CodeHS platform. And I'm going to show you AI hints, grading, how teachers can use AI in the platform itself. And then I'm going to go outside of the platform and show you as a computer science teacher what you can do with AI in two of the areas that I used first with AI in November of 2022, when kind of this revolution seemed to start. And that's AI as a coding companion, and then AI for differentiated assignments. All right, and so who's this guy speaking to me? My name's David Kleinhans. A little bit about my background. I spent a lot of time in the software industry. And then the last 13 years, I was a high school computer science and physics teacher in the Chicago area. I was a CodeHS user, fell in love with the product, and now working here at CodeHS in professional development, helping teachers in the US learn to code and learn how to use our platform. And like you, I do some things outside of work. I live in Chicago. I like to run on the lakefront. I love live music. Remodeling, and I wouldn't be from Chicago if I didn't love pizza. So those are some of the favorites. All right, so let's talk about AI and the CodeHS platform. So let's buckle up. Everybody take their left hand, reach over their shoulder, buckle in. Here we go. So I'm going to stop with the slides and I'm going to jump right into the platform, and I'm going to show you that I've actually constructed a little demo section, and I'm going to enroll you in this section in a minute. But first, I want to use it as maybe a teacher would when they're interacting with students. So I have some AI modules up top, but at the bottom, I've just grabbed a basic Python module and a digital citizenship module. And I emulated that. I have students in this section, and they've went ahead and they've done what students do. They've tried to code, they've asked me questions, they submitted assignments. Well, what are we doing with AI in the platform? Well, if I go to the new left-hand nav bar and under grading, code review was a big area for me when I was a teacher. And this is how I looked at my information. And I can see I have Joe student here, and that was me, a fictitious student. And I've done some different things. I've asked some questions of the teacher, and I've submitted assignments that are not auto-graded. And when I was a teacher, I would take the free response questions and turn them to teacher graded in the configure settings, because I wanted to see that the students really did the work versus just hitting the submit button. And so let's go look at the AI hints first for the student questions, and then we'll come back down to the grading. So when I jump in to one of the questions, and let's look at this first question. It says, I'm struggling on this one. Help, maybe CS is not for me. So I click on that assignment. It brings me into the CodeHS editor. And as a teacher, I could do one of a few things. I teach a lot of classes. Kids are at different levels as a teacher. I can come in here and I can refresh myself. I can say, okay, what's this assignment about? I don't remember this one. I just came from my Java APCS class. Now I'm in here. And oh yeah, okay, this is what they have to do. I could go to the docs, refresh myself on the code. I could look at their code and say, okay, I see some things right away that maybe don't make sense or resonate with me. But another option that we have now that may speed up some time, especially with larger code snippets, is to go to more. And when I go to the conversation area, I see the conversation that Joe has started with me. And Joe says, I'm struggling on this one, help. And I can say, well, let's go ahead and let's generate an AI hint. And that hint can be at multiple levels. I have mine set to identify the problem. And it says, hey, it seems like you have a syntax here in your code. Remember to add a colon after the if statement. Common error in Python, I can say, yep, that's there. And it says check the indentation as well. That looks pretty good. And it says ensure that your print statements are okay. And it doesn't give me a specific example, but one of my print statements, oh, I'm missing the end quote. So I see those two things. I see that, hey, that's what Joe's going to need to do. And so I can go ahead and I can say, okay, that's a great message. And maybe I want to add on to it. And so I can come in here into the message area and I can say, watch for quotes in print statement and don't quit. You have this. Give them some positive encouragement and hit send. And then that's what Joe will see. Now, Joe won't see my corrections here. That was for your illustration, but the AI tool, will provide that information to Joe. All right, so let's go back. So that's an example from an AI hint standpoint. I'm going to go back to my teacher view, and I'm going to go back and select the section that we're in. And then I'm going to say, let's look at code review again, because there's another thing I'd like to show you in here. So that was AI hints. There's also the ability to participate in a beta for AI grading. And this is particularly helpful, I think, with free response questions. So if I go in and Joe submitted a cyberbullying exercise and a school stranger. So let's click on the first one, the stranger, and I can say, okay, what's the assignment? And it says you begin to receive direct messages on Instagram from a person you don't recognize. They claim to go to your school and they know a lot of information about you. And so this exercise is about digital citizenship and safety and online safety. And it says to the student, hey, what steps should you take to respond to this situation? And the students responded, hey, sounds like legit communication. I would keep communicating for a bit, maybe stop when bored. So kind of a flippant answer. And so I could go to the grade tab and grade, but I can also see the blue button again with the AI wand. I can say, all right, let's see what the AI says. It came back pretty quick and it says your response to this scenario right here involved messages from an unknown person. It's important to be cautious. So it kind of reiterates some of the things that we shared in the lesson. If they claim to be from your school, you should be asking more questions to confirm identity. And so it goes on. And so I can say, hey, that really wasn't a great assignment by Joe. There's some great feedback here. And as a teacher, you have to think about how long would it have taken you to read Joe's responses and write that detailed of a response. A lot longer than with AI. So I could say to Joe, hey, I'm going to mark this as needs work and send that information off to Joe. So those are two things that exist in the platform today. And if you're a pro or a free user, these are available for pro users, but I'm going to show you a lot for free users in a minute. But those are some things that you can start working with today, the AI hints. And then if you're interested in AI grading, there's a way to start engaging and participating with us. So how do you do that? And here I have some slides that kind of just are referenced to show kind of the AI hints. And a reminder, when you work with the hints, you're looking for the AI wand and the blue generate AI. And the same with AI grading. So a great way to quickly evaluate student submissions and provide feedback. And one of my friends who teaches nearby in the Chicago area uses AI hints and CodeHS. And one of the things that he points out is he said they're phenomenal in his HTML class because the big issue there is the stylistic tags and the syntax. So, he says that's his probably number one use. And then here we have the suggest grade, and you saw me work through that. But these slides are from reference and to show you kind of the detail so that when you look at this and on Monday, when you get an email from us, you'll have a reference on how I interacted and what the workflow was. But what if you want to do more? What if you want to try this out yourself? Lindsay in the chat's going to share this link. You can click on it. It's a knowledge base article and you can enroll in the AI tool. So it'll be an opportunity for you to take something away today and start employing it in your class next week if you're interested. All right. Let's get you in here with me. Let's talk about other effective ways of using AI in the classroom that may not be kind of part of what we've put in the platform, part and parcel of your CodeHS experience. So I'm going to also ask Lindsay to share a link that allows you to enroll in a workshop section. And you have two choices. You can enroll in the workshop section as a student. I'll leave the section open this next week so you can play and you can explore. I'm going to go through some activities together, but there'll be some ones that you can participate and try next week. Or it's okay if you just want to feel a little more passive. I just like to watch you do it. So I'm going to go through it here, but I want to give you the opportunity. And so Lindsay, please share that in the chat. And then I'm going to jump into that section and we'll watch as people pop in and then I'll get going. So we already have 25 people in. Great. Keep on coming. Love to have people in. All right. And then I'm going to go to the assignments tab. And before I start taking you through some of the lessons, I just want you to know that this is a workshop section. So this doesn't correspond to an exact CodeHS course. The bottom two modules I used to demo the AI capabilities, they probably aren't something you need to look at. But where I'm going to focus my time today is AI as a coding companion, what's listed as Unit 4, and then differentiated assignments authored by AI, Unit 5. So if I could have you kind of focus in, those are going to be my spotlight modules. That's where I'm going to spend my time. And so I'm going to open up AI as a coding companion. And I think a lot of you have probably already done this. And I know students have when I was teaching. Code debug is a big way. So I'm going to switch to the student view and take this as a class, this module. It starts with some video. I'm not going to go through the video because that's just me talking. I'm here right now, so don't need to do that. But I'm going to go into the second bubble, teacher debug of Python program. And this is pretty typical in a CS classroom. A student has a program here, and I picked Python. I know we have JavaScript and Java, and I've taught both those classes. I just find for Python's a little easier to read if people come from Java and JavaScript. It's a little harder to go the other way. But I have a Python program here, and the purposes of the program that a student was supposed to write was to ask for a grade level in high school, and then determine the appropriate Spirit Week t-shirt color the student should be assigned when they come to school. And there's errors in this program and the students getting frustrated and they say, hey, I can't seem to resolve these errors. And you're in a class with 28 other students and you're trying to figure out, what's the best way to help them. And so I could go ahead and click run, and I see my syntax errors over on the side. And it says, oh, the first error here has to do with line 10. And this is a very common error in Python. And everybody looks at line 10 and they say, boy, line 10 couldn't be better. So what's the problem? And so somebody raised their hand and says, as a teacher, they go, hey, a lot of times in Python, it's the line before. And that's because we haven't closed off the print statement on the line before. So we'd have to make a change to that. So if I come in here and I go ahead and I close that off, I say, that looks great. Okay, we fixed the error. Maybe we're done. I hit run again. There's another syntax error. Very common error in an intro class, and that's where this code comes from. Grade level equals 9. Okay, I say, okay, to the student, equals for assignment, double equal sign is for comparative assessment. So are these things the same? Are we comparing them or are we assigning them? Oh, I'm comparing it to see if they're the same, Mr. K. So I run it again. All right, now it looks like I have no more compile errors. Enter my grade level. I'll say 11. I taught a lot of juniors. It says wear a black shirt. Okay, the code's wrong. It's still not working, Mr. K. And so then I realized, maybe I thought I had a seminal moment as a teacher, teaching them conditional logic, but I didn't. They're doing everything in if statements, not if, elif, kind of more case type logic. And now I go ahead and I run the code, enter grade level 11. It still says wear a black t-shirt. Why is that? Okay, one more error. It looks like that on line 12, 14, 16, and 18, I'm comparing to an integer, but I'm prompting for a string. So maybe I better put int up here, enter 11, finally have it right. Ooh, got it. All right, so that took a fair number of steps, and that's a typical debug process. And as a teacher, you're experienced, you're gonna be picking up quicker, but is there an alternate way to help the student? Well, I'll check code here, make sure I have their assignment, submit it, and move on. So that the purpose of that module, there's nothing in AI there, but it's to make you think about the time it takes to debug. I'm going to skip the reflection here, and now I'm going to go to maybe an alternate way you could do the same thing. So you could hit AI hints if you're a pro user, but if you're not, you could just copy the code and copy the prompt I have here that says, find the 4 errors in this program. And you can use your favorite AI tool. I'm jumping into ChatGPT. I just copy the code into the prompt. You see, up top, I have the prompt, I have the code, and then I let it run. And then ChatGPT comes back and says, oh, you got a missing parenthesis in the print statement. Hey, that's very good. It gives a little education on assignment versus comparison operators. And then talks a little bit about a data type misalignment, which is, you have a string, you're trying to compare an integer, that's not going to work. And then it also says, hey, maybe you need to look at an if, elif. And so it comes back with some good results. And so as a teacher, this is something you can use. And it's also something you can share with your students. And different schools have different AI blockers. Some are on, some are off. But it's an opportunity for the student to get going. And so that's a pretty great assessment here by ChatGPT of what the errors were in a shorter amount of time. And there's been a lot of studies out there that say quick feedback is so important to students. And, part of it is they get disengaged or get discouraged. And as a teacher, we're always balancing, giving them enough grit, like, come on, fight through. You've only spent 3 minutes on it. You're not done. Fight a little harder versus, okay, you spent 10 minutes. I don't want you to lose confidence at the early stage of your CS journey. And so that's what we battle. So I found this to be a great mechanism to help students. And then the next part of the workshop kind of shows, and every time you send something to ChatGPT or Gemini, you can get a different result. And so this was the result the first time. You just saw the live result. And then I copied the code it gave me in, and I said, well, let's see if it works to pass my autograder test I built. Yeah, it did work. So it generated some great code. So that's one example of using AI as a coding companion. And I know I have a tendency to get going here. Can I pause a minute? And Katie or Lindsay, do we have any questions that I should address, or can I keep going?
We have one that just came in that maybe you'd want to talk through about the concern that students go directly to AI and don't try and think for themselves before accessing that tool.
Yeah, and that's a real one. And that's not just in computer science, that's in physics, that's in English, that's in history. And I see some people on here I've had this discussion with before. I see Chris actually on here and some other people. I think as teachers, we're going to have to change a little bit our assessment criteria. And we've already seen it with the College Board and AP, where they're doing more in-class assessments versus kind of homework based. And students also are going to have to describe what their code does, which is great practice anyway in a CS class. unplugged. So students can definitely go home and write code with AI and write some pretty good code. And so I think we're going to have to put some guardrails up as teachers, like we've always done. I don't know that it's much different than what we've always done. It was kind of the same thing when the web came out. No, every answer is available on the web. Okay, how do we know it's student generated work? In the first year, I played some games with the students in November 22. They would submit code. I knew it wasn't consistent with prior code, and it also had syntax that we hadn't covered yet. And so I would send that code to a chatbot with another student's code that was the same and ask it to compare it for likelihood of plagiarism. And I would share that with the students. And so I'd encourage them. I'd say, hey, we can get this back and forth, but let's have a detente. Let me see you in class working, coding, because the assessments are going to be in class where you're not going to have access to an AI tool working in coding. So I think the academic integrity center we have, I think some of the things you've always done as teachers are still going to play here, but I think the assessments are what are going to change the most. Let's look at code enrichment, another area. So I'm picking up another bubble of code, and I found this to be a great way. So this is a similar project. It's just Python code where somebody enters their name and year in school. And then it just prints out, okay, you should buy books from the senior, junior, freshman book list. So if I run the code, it's great. And it says, hey, you should buy books from the freshman year book list. Student says, I'm done. Finish that assignment in 5 minutes, Mr. K. I'm ready to move on. And this is one of your fast flyers. And one of the challenges with teaching CS more than any other class, I know I taught math and physics, is the varied skill level of the students and how to sate the fast flyers. And so one of the things you can do with AI is you can say to the student, okay, you're ahead of everybody else. Everybody else is still working through conditional control structures, struggling a little with Python. You're kind of ahead of the game here with this code. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you an enrichment exercise. So let's go look at what that could look like. So the code's working. What's a better way, I would say to the student, for you to handle conditional printing using the code? And some students would say, well, let me look. And they go, I'm not really sure. And I'd say, well, okay, let's ask AI. So I'm going to go to the next bubble. So I'm just going to copy this prompt. Is there a better way to perform conditional formatting? And let's go right to ChatGPT and provide it the code. And it should come back and say, yeah, you should probably use a data structure, and that's how that's done if you're a software engineer. And so it comes back and it says, oh, you could use a Python dictionary, and it gives an example and talks about why it's better. And then the student may come to you, and I had this happen to me in class, and they said, well, Mr. K, like, we haven't learned that yet. And I said, no, we haven't, but that doesn't stop you from moving forward. You're ahead of the rest of the class. Why don't you explore? And then you can do a gallery walk or a showcase for the rest of the students. Hey, we learned about ifs. We're going to be talking about data structures down the road, lists, arrays, dictionaries. Maybe this is something else that we could do, and give the fast flyer student, the kids from like Dash from the Incredibles, an opportunity to have a leadership role in class and explain the code and do some research. So this was one of my favorite uses, was allowing the kids to explore how they could enhance their code. So that was one way, code enrichment. And I'm just going to click on the next bubble. This showed the response last time I ran it. It said, oh, you could use a dictionary, and it kind of generated similar code. So we're seeing it's kind of doing the same. So 2 ways that you could use AI as a coding companion. Let's look at a couple more. I don't know that we'll have time for everything, but another one I liked is peer review. And so this workshop section is going to be open for a while. So this is a more robust coding exercise, and it's a student submitted assignment where they had to build an ATM style banking application, and they used Python. And they wrote their code, and they tested it, and they said, hey, Mr. K, it works. And then I said to them, I said, well, okay, I'd like you to do a code review, but you're a little ahead of the rest of the class, or right now I'm working with Sarah on hers. I'd like you to kind of do a code review with AI. And much like you do in the software industry, where somebody else will do a peer review of your code. So I can pass that code. And like some of the things I would give them a prompt for is, hey, did they do decomposition? Did they break their code into smaller parts? Did they do error handling? Did they format the currency correctly? We haven't taught that. Python is really more scripting language, not a UI language. So how do you format currency? How do you put a format mask on there? And so what can be improved? So those are some things I may see right away, but I could go to an AI tool and say, how would you improve the following Python code? And then I can grab this code and the prompt, go back to ChatGPT, Gemini, whatever, Claude, whatever you like, pop it in there, and it'll run, and it'll give some ideas. And I found this to be very helpful with students. So it kind of shortened a little how they import libraries and modules. Hey, I like that. That's what it talks about, consolidate imports. It says, oh, you got to break your program into functions. It needs to be more readable, more reusable. Maybe you should use a class to manage user and account information. An intro class, maybe you're not doing object-oriented programming yet. You're doing more procedural programming. So you maybe skip that or allow a student to go explore that. So it breaks the code into more digestible pieces. I like it. So it gives them idea. It tells them to use the printf statement. Better date formatting. So it has some really good ideas in here. And so that can be a peer review. And then you can keep going. You can say, what about error handling? Because I didn't see much in there on error handling. And then it'll go ahead and take a run at it and say, oh, okay, let's enhance the error handling capability. So validating that the user entered a good input. So I'll let it run and run and run. But the prompt, that the response I got from this prompt last time, is represented below. So we can look at that as well. And so this is what it told me last time, pretty similar to what you just saw this time. So I think, and then the student can change it. So I think that code enrichment, code peer review are two great areas. I'm going to skip code explanation because I want to jump to rubric comparison and get on to the last area. I'm presenting this humbly. Any idea that I'm throwing out here that you say, hey, that doesn't resonate with me, that's great. I'm just trying to spark some ideas and conversation, and I'm interested in hearing yours. I'll pause once more. Lindsay, any more in any Q&A?
I don't think so. I had a question about rubrics, but it looks like we're about to start rubrics as a topic. So
yeah, we are. Let's go. All right. So AI is great for creating rubrics. So I should say that. I used it to say, I'd like to have 5 Python rubrics on writing programs that have while looping and getting students used to breaking out of loops. So you can use it to help you create rubrics. But one of the things that I found particularly helpful, if you've ever been an AP teacher, AP CSP has a new create performance task. And this is their rubric. And so it says, here are the criteria for a successful create performance task from the College Board. This is not from me. This is just me grabbing that information. And so I could say, oh, that's kind of interesting. So what I'd like to do is I've built my program as a student. And this program is a temperature converter. It converts from Fahrenheit to Celsius. And it does it based on a data structure, a list, or what some people think of as an array of temperature data coming in. And that's one of the things that's required by the College Board for the create performance task. So I've kind of built it. I feel good about it. Hey, let me go ahead and run it as a student. And as a teacher, you're not supposed to help the students with this. So the student runs it and it says, oh, it converts 78 to 26 Celsius. I got a 5. This is going to be an AP 5 for this program. I'm feeling great about it. And they say, Mr. K, can you look at it? And I say, I can't, but you are allowed to use AI to help you in the create performance task as a student. And so one of the things tell the kids to do is grade the following program here. Grade this program, and then relative to the criteria for APCSP. So I'm going to grab the program, all the criteria, go back to ChatGPT, paste it in there, and I've given it the program, I've given it the rubric, and now it's going to do an analysis. All right. And the first thing is you see a score 0 and you go, yikes. I was hoping to get a 1. I was hoping I would pass that test. And that's instruction for input. My program did not have a user input. And that's one of the requirements of the create performance task. And then it liked some of the other things I did. It gave me a 0.5 point in one area. I'll have to go look at the algorithm it didn't do. But this rubric analysis can be a game changer for the students. And it's out of the 6 criteria where each was worth 1 point, I'd give you a 4 or 5. So the student has some work to do here. So using AI for rubric analysis, especially in this area, I think could be really helpful for the students. And it's timely this time of year as May approaches and they're trying to wrap up. And it could be something you dovetail into their create performance task steps that you're having them do. Are they meeting the requirements? Why don't you have AI take a look? All right. So I'm going to stop there. There's some others in here. Lindsay, I know we've had people drop in and out. If you have a minute, throw the workshop section link in. You can work through these examples. These are just meant to help you think about ways to use AI with real code examples. I'm going to go to the next area, which is differentiated assignments authored by AI. And this, when I was a CodeHS user before I came to work here, one of the things that I always wanted was more assignments of the same type. And why? Well, kids go on vacation. What happens in section 3 of the class in the morning, the section 7 kids in the afternoon became aware of high school shenanigans. I'd start seeing some of the same code. So I'd be like, boy, I'd like to have some alternate assignments. So I love using AI for this. So this just happens to be a Python assignment. It doesn't matter what the assignment is. This one just searches a string of characters for a letter. So I'll just go ahead and run it so we see what it does. And it comes back and says true or false. So the letter O is in John and the letter X is not in Alice. Okay, so that's our assignment, and that's what the students had to do. Well, now you have a different period, or the students struggled with that assignment, or you had students that missed class. And so what can you ask AI to help you with? Well, I can say, I can take the CodeHS instructions from the assignment tab, which is what you see that I've highlighted there, and then say, create an alternate assignment. So I would grab the assignment instructions, say, create an alternate assignment, and then it starts going ahead and trying to create an assignment. And so it says, here it is. You're going to take 2 parameters, a number and the divisor, and you're going to see if something's a multiple. And then if you say, okay, that sounds good, that's the one I want, you could say generate Python code, and it will give you the solution code for that alternate assignment. Or you could say, hey, I have 5 tables and we're working as teams in my class. You can say, great, please generate 5 additional alternate assignments. And then it's off and running, and you can provide each of those to each table or group of students in your room that you're working with. So alternate assignments is an exceptional way to use AI, as well as for differentiated instruction. You can tell AI, hey, I'd like the first two to be a little more difficult. I'm going to challenge a group with that. And then I have some students that maybe aren't as confident right now, and then I'd like something a little easier for those students. So it's a great way not only to provide alternate assignments, but differentiated instruction. And I know you didn't get a chance to read what AI generated there, but here's an example. And this is one of the alternate assignments it generated in the past. So instead of looking for a specific letter in a word, it counts the number of vowels. Very similar, using functions, searching a literal string for specific letters. So good example there. How about quizzes and assessments? Definitely as a teacher, anything I gave out, I assumed was available digitally the moment the class period ended. And so never wanted to give the same class the same quiz. So I'll go back. So we're now working with the modulus operator with Python. And so I can say, hey, let's go ahead and create a 5-question quiz on the modulus operator. And if you're not a Python user, it's just the operator that divides a number and traps the remainder. So 5 divided by 2 would give us 1. And so I can say, all right, create a 5-question quiz using the modulus operator and Python. And it goes and it starts generating a quiz. And I used to use quizzes as a teacher, and I know now they're starting to embed AI. I actually moved away from it and started just using AI to generate some of these quizzes. And then some of these I would hand out as unplugged paper activities, and some I would put as an assignment in CodeHS for the quiz. And then I could say, oh, if I like that, I could say, make a similar quiz with a higher level of difficulty. And I hope I have a typo there, but I think ChatGPT will know what I want. It's off and running. So now it starts giving me more code snippets where the students have to read. Oh, I like that. And then I could just say, oh, this is kind of more representative of the type of quiz I want the students to have, and kind of mirrored the check for understanding we had at CodeHS. All right. I'm going to jump back. Alternate examples is kind of the final area I'll show. And I'll just build on what we were doing with modulus. Like a lot of times students who struggle with computer science do it because it doesn't resonate with them or meet them where they're at in terms of, I don't really, the modulus operator is used to determine if a number's odd or even. As a teenager, that doesn't capture me, Mr. Kleinhans. And I'd be like, okay, I gotcha. So then I would say, well, it's tough for me to always on the fly to think of examples. So I could say, show me 3 real world examples. So I'll go ahead, show me 3 real world examples of how the Python modulus operator works. And ChatGPT starts coming up. Oh, leap years. Now that may be too techy, for me. I may not be interested in that, or too math based. Schedule with a rotating pattern. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that doesn't resonate. And then how about sports examples? So I could go a little deeper. And I could say, oh, now I could give them something. Oh, determine who serves in volleyball. That's a good one. I've never seen that one before. So it starts generating ways that you could use modulus, a concept that they're struggling with in an area that may make more sense to them. All right. So we have 3 minutes left here, or 4 minutes. I just want to let everybody know, I'm going to leave this workshop section open. I'll delete some of the bottom modules were just were a mechanism for me to demo AI hints and AI grading where we started. But I encourage you to explore these and share in the chat right now. And I'll give Lindsay an opportunity to jump in with any questions or anything that she's seen in the chat. And then I'll let you know if you're really feeling like you want to stretch your technical muscles. I did include a module about how you can embed AI within CodeHS. And so I've built an exercise here where you can go ahead and run it, and you will actually see an ASCII version of Carol running AI, and you can configure the puppy, where you can configure the AI puppy and say Python is best. And then you can ask it a coding question right within the CodeHS platform. And I can say, who is your friend? Just like I with any other chat bot. And so if you're interested in, doing some more, this module will take you through kind of building your own little AI bot. And if you'd have to use an AI service and pay for that, or have your school pay for it. I paid $10 and got so many thousand tokens, and now have kind of an AI bot. So that module is there for reference, not something we're going to go through today. That's more intermediate advanced. But before I finish, one thing, since it's the first session for many of you, when you leave the session, you'll get prompted with a flyout like that's shown here. Please share your feedback. We're very interested. It's also what allows you to get the swag bag and the Amazon gift card. And if you accidentally hit click, that's okay. There's a megaphone on a PC or Mac, or there's 3 ellipse bars on a tablet, and all your surveys are captured there. And so please fill that out. We'd love to hear from you. And Lindsay, anything I missed? Anything worth drawing out?
I don't think so. I feel like we're good.
All right, well, thank you. And finally, a special thank you to you teachers. Anybody that comes home from a long week of teaching. I know, like me, some of you probably face flopped on the couch and go, I'm going to need every 48 hours of this weekend to be ready for Monday. Thank you for spending some of your time to make it better for other people's kids. You guys are superheroes. Thank you.